welcome to Talking TSM Off-Season Edition. Here is your host, Robert Haynes.
Hello and welcome to Talking TSM. I think I got the introduction down that time. You know, as I was fading out, got the voice in there, you know. Sounded fun and good, hopefully. Hopefully, obviously, is the answer there. But yes, it is Monday, September 13th, 2021. And we have exactly one thing to talk about. Can you guys guess what it is? I will give you 5 seconds to figure it out as I take this drink. Okay. I'm sure you guessed it by now. We are going to be talking about Bjergsen. So, on Saturday night, I believe it was Saturday night. It was either Friday night or Saturday night. I can't remember which one at this point. Pretty sure it's Saturday night, though. The news comes out from Upcomer, from Tyler, as I know him, Fion, as others know him, also the esports guy, as some others know him, that Bjergsen is looking to play again in 2022, and that he is open to any and all offers from the LCS in the LEC. Which is awesome and terrifying news all at the same time. Now, I will tell you, I reached out to a couple players that night and asked them about this news. And I said, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you heard anything yourself? And the players that I asked, only one of them I would say is close enough to the situation where it would make sense for them to know about it. They said, no, I had not heard this. So this must not be a very widely known thing. So his sources must either be directly from Bjergsen himself or somebody high up in TSM, is my thought. Maybe even like Spica or Double Lift or something like that. Although if it was Double Lift, then I'm sure Travis would have been the one reporting it. So there's, you know, when you do some deduction here, there is the mindset that I have that it was likely that TSM or somebody else wanted to get this out there. And there's a few reasons that I think that they would do this early on too, by the way, because we won't see any official decisions most likely made for what, 2 months? I think I want to say November like 5th or sometime around then is when like contracts are officially done and, you know, signing period begins. And so getting it out there this early to me is interesting because the logical conclusion that I come to, which I know a lot of you are not going to be happy about, but the logical conclusion that I come to is that it sounds like he might actually be looking at other offers. Either that or somebody let it slip and told, you know, somebody else about this whole thing. Because Bjergsen's normally a pretty private guy. I mean, he even went out on Twitter and commented on Curry's, picture, which, tinfoil hat, that makes me almost believe more likely that, I know he just doesn't get on Twitter very often, so I almost wonder if he's just trolling everybody, and Curry's going to become the new head coach, and, Bjergsen's going to be our guy again. But, I don't know, man. It's just such a weird time for that news to come out. Because now it does say that he is considering coming back. I do want to point that out. It did not say that he is for sure coming back to play, that he is considering it. And so I want to walk through a couple things before we really dive into this. I want to go over kind of what we're going to discuss necessarily, because I've done this intro now. Like, we know, like, okay, he's out there. We know that he's looking. I wanted to make sure I pointed out that it said that he was looking, that he had not officially decided to come back yet. It says that he's looking to play, but that doesn't mean that he's going to. Right? And so, what I want to do is I want to discuss his motives for playing, potentially. And then I want to go through the potential teams, every team, all 20 teams in the LEC and the LCS, and describe if I think he could go there or not. So I want to do that. And then we'll call it a day. So for starters, let's think about why Bjergsen, of all people, would want to come back to playing. Because he had retired, he wanted to be a coach, and the crazy thing is it felt like he really liked being a coach. I mean, the way that he handled his players as a coach, the way that he brought this team of players together was impressive to me. And it seemed like coaching is perfect for him. And I will say this. If he does come back, no matter what, I can almost guarantee you that he will coach again one day. And it will likely be TSM again. Because I think he did a great job. I mean, the way that he brought this team together after what we saw in the first couple months was really impressive. And despite a lot of different odds, this kid really, well, man, now he surprised us with a lot of his decisions and the way that he liked doing these things. And so I don't think that Bjergsen would make these changes, would do all of these things, and become a head coach just because there's a rumor out there that he just did it to get a better game sense or something like that. I don't know. No, that's got to be false. That just has to be false. There's no way he would retire for a full season just to get a different experience. That just doesn't make sense with who he is. And not just that, it just doesn't really make sense in general. Like, when you have one of the best macro mindseted players theoretically in the world, you're not going to retire to coach for one season and try to figure it out. Try to learn more. Like, that's just not how it's going to be. Now, one other thing I've seen is that he wanted the perspective of his other players, maybe a little bit more, of the other positions. That I could see maybe a little more, but I still don't see him retiring for it. That just doesn't really make sense to me. And so, with that, I look at it like this. I think Bjergsen was really beat up after the 06 Worlds. And I think he was really frustrated with also having to coach and play at the same time. And I don't think that he did this to learn anything. I think he more just felt that it was his time. And so, he's talked about it, I even asked him straight up, about coaching this team and everything. And he's, again, I want to reiterate this. He seemed to really enjoy it. And I'm sure, yes, the last couple weeks of the season, specifically the last week of the season was upsetting and frustrating. But this man is a born coach. He is a born leader. You can see it. I mean, the way that he commanded this team, yeah, did they always do what he wanted to? No. But calling him out for solo queue, being able to hold these personal meetings, being able to understand it from a player's perspective, I think is what really made this team better. And there's just something to me that makes me feel as though he is truly, I think he's going to be a great coach. He showed it already, and when I say great, I mean I bet you he will go down as one of the greatest coaches, at least in LCS history, should he decide to stay here. And so I think that's where his mindset is at, that he, for the coaching aspect of it. Now, when it comes back to playing, I think he just missed it, guys. I think he missed being able to be the one who could control the way things happened in the game. Because once he did everything that he knew how to do, right, it didn't matter once the players got into game. He could not control that aspect of it. And it's not like he's a control freak. I'm just saying, I'm sure he sat there and said, okay, I could have done this, 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 and this, and we would have won the game. Right? And in that regard, I do think as a coach, that's what some things that he learned, maybe about himself, that maybe he wasn't ready to be done coaching or playing. That's what I think it is, because I think he looks at it as, I'm only 25, he'll be 26 by the time next season starts. And I think he realizes I can coach whenever I want to. Literally, the day that my skills specifically are no longer good enough, I can go and coach. Not because he's burnt out, or because I think that's what truly drove him to coaching, was that he was probably burnt out and just upset after the 06. And so I think that he saw these games. He's seen who is in the LCS right now. And I think he realizes that he could still be the best LCS mid laner without a doubt. He might start off a little slow, but by the end of this coming year, at least in the LCS and possibly in the LEC, I think that he could very easily come back and be the best. He was last year. The only real difference to that would probably be Abadage. And Perks, I guess. Abadage and Perks would be the only real ones, I think, to challenge him in that way. So that's where I think his mindset at. I think he just missed it, guys. I think it is just as simple as that. I think he missed it, and I think he felt like, hey, I can do it with the right team. And that's where this all comes in. The right team. Now, the report has said that he needed to, or that he was open to LCS and LEC offers. Before I dive into these other teams, and I'm an idiot, I meant to look this up and I didn't, so I apologize. I just completely forgot about this. But he is a part owner of the team. And if you remember, when Sneaky became a part owner of Cloud9, right? Which I'm sure Jack's kind of regretting at this point, to be honest. The thing is that he couldn't return to another team because he was part owner, because that is, it's hard to, it makes it easier for somebody to throw games against the team that they own, because, there's the money that is involved in it. So there is a conflict of interests, okay? And in legal terms, the only way that Bjergsen would be able to return to another team, as far as I know, would be if he sold off his shares in TSM. Okay? Because even if he's in the LEC, or the LCK, or the LPL, or CB LOL, or wherever the hell he wanted to go, the only way would be that it wouldn't be a conflict of interest, right? Is if his team, in the other league, didn't go to Worlds or MSI, and TSM also happened to not go to Worlds or MSI. And even then, there is a very easy argument that could be made by TSM, right? That it is still a conflict of interest, even in somewhere else, because he could just sit there, collect a fat paycheck, right? And intentionally make sure that his team doesn't make it there, so that then it's not a conflict of interest. So in any way you look at it, that would be a conflict of interest. And listen, I know Tyler, and I know that he is just doing his job as a journalist, as am I. If I was to get this news and say, hey, yeah, he's looking elsewhere, right? We heard the same thing in 2019, right? Oh, he's going to take offers everywhere. And Fionn even put out there, hey, sorry, Tyler Fionn, the same thing. Esports guy, same thing, right? Like, he put out there that he would, be taking all offers, that this was a true free agency. He wanted to see what was out there. And so there's the conflict of interest part, okay? And so there's only two options and only two realistic possibilities and ways that I see that this could have happened. The first one is that Bjergsen had a falling out with TSM as a whole. Okay? With Reggie, with the org, Lena, Spica, potentially even. Like, there was just a true falling out where he wants to come back as a player. They won't let him. Or something like that. Or there was just some big fight over something. We don't know what it could be. I can't even speculate what would cause him to leave this team necessarily. But a massive falling out, and he says, sell my shares, I'm going back to being a player. Right? Like, and listen, like, Bjergsen's a super smart guy. I would argue he is one of the smartest, if not the smartest player and potentially entire individual in the entire LCS. And listen, I know that I'm a TSM fan, but I genuinely believe that even outside of that, most people would agree. He is probably at least a top 3 smartest dude or dudette or them in the entire LCS. So it would have to be a pretty big falling out. And it would have to have changed something in the last 2 weeks, basically, in a pretty major way. All right? Because that would be one of the most short-sighted decisions Bjergsen has ever made. You have to understand, guys, in the way that business works, right? That the more money and the more that somebody, the way that percentages work is not only when a team sells out, but you most of the time they get part of the profit from certain deals. And while, yes, Bjergsen could very easily make the case that, hey, his shares maybe will never be higher than they are now, which I doubt, they just finished that FTX deal, right? And as a part owner of the team, either Bjergsen saw some of that money or they took all that money and are investing it into the team. And of that $200 million, guys, that just increased the value of this team, of this organization, to such a height that it is probably one of the 2 or 3 most valuable organizations in the entire world. Okay, so from a business perspective, if he were to sell out now, yes, would he have a lot of money depending on his percentage? Depending on how much he owns of the team, yes. And by the way, that is the other thing. If this man only owns 0.25% of the team or something like that, he might be more willing to sell it. But I can't imagine that Reggie would let a small percentage of the team keep Bjergsen from being basically a lifelong TSM player. Right? I just can't imagine, again, unless if there was a falling out, that would happen. Okay, if Bjergsen wanted an extra part of the percentage, I'm sure they could figure out a deal to where they could make that work. Unless if Bjergsen's being completely unreasonable, which I doubt. Okay, we're putting all these hypotheticals, right? I'm throwing all this stuff out there at you, and I'm walking you through the potential process of this. Okay, and it's just so freaking unlikely. So we look at this again. And I'm like, okay. So he'd have to have a falling out because his ownership of the organization has never been higher. And it will only continue to increase as the team continues to acquire more assets and just get bigger, better sponsors. It's just gonna happen. So selling your shares now of a potential eventually billion-dollar organization, because that's how traditional sports happen. Okay, the path that TSM are on their way to is what most billion-dollar companies start to do. Okay, and $200 million is a pretty good portion of your way on there. Up to that point. I bet you that TSM is probably now worth $400 to $500 billion or more. Or not billion, $1 million, excuse me. So it's only going to increase. So it would be very short-sighted of Bjergsen to get rid of his shares. Now, there is one other option. And if Bjergsen's really looking at other stuff, right? And he's a smart individual, again. I am sure that if he goes somewhere else, he's going to say, I want to own part of the team. Because I'm going to have to sell my shares of TSM and own your organization, which is more than likely worth less than TSM's. And truly, this would be the only situation, the only way that I could see Bjergsen leaving is if another team offered him a pretty hefty percentage of their entire organization. And it was an organization that Bjergsen could very realistically want to go to. Could be worth his time to lose his shares of TSM and come over to them. Now, there are only a few teams that could happen with. One of them, and I'll just start here real quickly with the teams, is C9. But guess what? They just got perks for millions of dollars, and they just made it to Worlds with the $1 million man. That ain't happening, family. There ain't no way that C9 are just going to let, unless the Perks is planning on walking, and there's no way that Jack's going to give up more of his company to another player who's probably only going to play for maybe a year or two, even if that player is Bjergsen. Okay? So, check that one off. No way. All right? But I want to start in the LEC first overall. That was the only team I just wanted to talk about because there's one other team here in the LEC specifically that I think we could talk about, but it's probably not going to happen. So, again, I've gone through my rationale for how he could potentially leave. Now we're going to go through the players. All right? Or the teams that you could go to. Astralis. Ain't going to happen. No chance. Because the other thing that Bjergsen's going to want is he's going to want a team that can go to Worlds right away. Okay? So I can't see Astralis being a team that's going to be able to make enough moves to make it happen. And Magi Felix has been fine for them. So, not that he's better than Bjergsen, because he's not. But it's just, I don't see them making that decision. Excel Esports. Now, this is a team that, while extremely unlikely, that could potentially be interested and would be a team that's willing to give Bjergsen percentages, right? Because Marcoon and Advian have just come in. Patrick's still good. Kryze looked better, and Nuke Duck actually looked pretty solid, but you imagine Bjergsen on Excel, and they feel like, hey, their chances of finally making it into the playoffs would be great, right? And this is a younger organization. I think they would be a team that'd be willing to offer Bjergsen the moon. But I don't think that he would want to go there. Okay? I can't see him being like, hey, I'm going to sell my shares of TSM, and yeah, now I'm a part owner of Excel Esports. Right? Like, that just doesn't make sense. So I scratched that one. Schalke, they're gone. There's a new team that's going to be there. I believe all their players are going to be free agents. If I'm them, I'm building around Broken Blade. Now, Bjergsen does love Broken Blade, so there could be a draw there by this new organization, right? This new investor that maybe he'd be willing to give Bjergsen because it's going to be a brand new esports org, it would sound like, unless if he, combines himself with somebody else, which could also happen. It's happened with Mad and, a couple other teams. I could see it happening. It just is such an unlikely thing. But I will argue this. Of all the LEC teams, that's the one I could see most likely. Because Bjergsen could actually own a pretty sizable percentage of the team and have almost full control over what they do. Right? And I think that he would like that. And again, I don't think that he's some micromanaging control freak. But I do think that if he's going to make this decision to come back, I think he's going to want to have a pretty nice say in what's going on. So, yeah, whoever takes Schalke's spot, meaning we know who it is as the investor or whatever, but we don't know what the team name is going to be and what they're going to do necessarily. And if it's going to be, combined now with an older org, right? Like maybe Origin come back or something like that. I don't know. But what I do know is that I think that would be the most likely LEC option for him, because that would be, I think, an organization that's willing to pour money into him. But again, when you look at it, there's just so many unknowns. Why come back for so many unknowns? That just doesn't really make sense to me. So we move on. Fnatic. I don't know that Fnatic. I mean, Bjergsen over Niski would definitely be an upgrade. And an Adam, Whippo, Bjergsen upset and Hylissang team would be pretty freaking good. But I just don't see it. In terms of, I think, I don't know. I mean, they'd have to give him a nice percentage too, but Fnatic is an all-time great team for the LEC, but they aren't as big of an org as some of the others in this. Like their big focus really is like League of Legends and I think CS:GO, if I remember correctly. But they're not going to be worth nearly as much as TSM. But I could see him looking here, and I think they would definitely be interested. Upset and Adam are young. People forget Upset's only like 21 years old. So, they are just making it to Worlds. I do think that he would make this team better. I think Niski played fine this year, but I think he would make this team play better. And I think if they had all four other parts around him, I could see this being a good team, honestly. So Fnatic, the more I think about it, even right now, I could see it making sense. But again, I think that they'd have to give him percentage of the team, and I don't know that they'd be willing to do that. I'll just be honest with you, because then Whippo would probably want percentage of Fnatic to be able to stay. So. This would probably be the second most likely team, to be honest with you, of all of them. In the LEC, maybe even first. Honestly, they might actually be first over the Schalke thing that I was saying. Again, not actual Schalke, but the other part. So maybe, I thought about it last night and I didn't really think Fnatic, but the more I think about it, it could be. I could potentially see that one. G2. If the rumor of them re-signing Caps to a 3-year deal was not most likely true, then that would be the one team that I could see just going, hard in the paint for Bjergsen. Now, there is the chance that now that Bjergsen's available, that maybe they don't want Caps. But to be honest with you, as much as I love Bjergsen, I think while Caps can be craps, I do generally think that he might be a better player than our boy. Please don't kill me. I'm sorry. I love Bjergsen so much. But, I mean, guys, Caps was like a top 5 player at Worlds. I don't know that Bjergsen has been that any time recently. Caps is younger. He's only 21. It would, as much as I'm sure G2 would love, the big name Bjergsen, and I know Carlos, if he really wanted somebody like Bjergsen, would be more than willing to give him money or give him percentage of the company. I just can't see it happening. The only way would be is if Bjergsen or Caps were to switch positions to something else. Now, maybe Bjergsen goes into, the jungle or something. And in that case, if he was willing to switch positions, then sure. Yeah, Bjergsen could definitely look at G2. But is that going to happen? I don't think so. Okay, so again, right now I've got Fnatic at the top, and then new team next. Another interesting team would be Mad Lions. Humanoid's contract is up. Mad Lions are on their way up. If Humanoid were to go somewhere else, I could see the Mad Lions making a big push for Bjergsen. It would make sense. Their team would be very good with him. Problem is, I don't think they're going to let Humanoid go anywhere else. Now, to be fair, the rumors are only that Kaiser has signed, but not Karzi. So right now, it's Kaiser Armut and El Yoya who are currently signed forward. if Humanoid and Carsey were to leave, that might make Bjergsen a much more realistic option. But the problem is I don't know if Bjergsen would want to go there if Carsey's not there. Now, it sounds like they're pretty close to a deal with Carsey, but the other thing is Humanoid and Carsey work so well together. Right? And you can tell they're like, big brother, little brother. While I do think Mad Lions would be willing to give Bjergsen money, I just don't see this one happening. I think it would be the third most likely in the LEC, but I just don't think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to re-sign Humanoid. I think they're going to re-sign Carsey, especially if they have a great run this year, which, since we aren't rooting for TSM at Worlds, I will tell you I'm rooting for NA and Mad Lions. I really would like to see the LEC do well, but I really think Mad Lions are very good. So, yeah, I think Humanoid stays. The last four are pretty unlikely. Maybe. Misfits Gaming, VTO is their young star. I can't imagine that they would give him up for a 26-year-old Bjergsen. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, VTO could be their guy for the next 10 years. At least 5. So, I just don't see that happening. Rogue, Larson had a bad split for sure. No doubt about it. But I don't think that that's going to be enough to keep Rogue from changing Bjergsen out, unless if Larson just absolutely, or changing Larson out for Bjergsen, just because it would take Larson just absolutely, I don't know, having, I don't know, he would have to suck really bad, really badly at Worlds for that to happen. SK Gaming, never going to happen. Vitality, never going to happen. Just saying it straight up right now. He would not go to those teams. So, if I had to rank them, it'd be Fnatic, new team of whatever they're going to be, Mad Lions, and then Rogue would be my fourth. And I will tell you this much. I do believe that if he were to go elsewhere, the LEC would be the most likely place, because then he could finally go home. Finally be at home for more than, a couple months maybe. Although I don't know what his family life is like, so I don't know what Bjergsen, if he really cares to go home. All right, we're going to move on to the LCS. 100 Thieves ain't going to happen. They got Abadage. Don't think they need to change that up. Cloud9, we already talked about it. Not going to happen. CLG, sure. Would they throw the kitchen sink at him? Absolutely. Is Bjergsen going to want to go there? Definitely not. That team is not built to win, and unless that they came to him with like some god tier level plan, which they won't because they're not good. They're in terms of like the organizational aspects of that team. They don't know how to put a team together. They don't know how to do anything. So no, I cannot see that happening. Dignitas, they just don't have the team around Bjergsen for him to want to even consider it. So no. Evil Geniuses. Here's one that I could see him being interested in, but ultimately I think he would say no to. And I will be completely honest. I think that this is the second most likely LCS team outside of TSM. Like, TSM's not even being put into it because I think that they're the most likely. But we'll talk about that here in a minute. Evil Geniuses, I think, would definitely be willing to give a percentage to Bjergsen. I think it would fit a narrative for them, being evil and all. Jizuke's gone. It would definitely make sense. You got a young rising star in Danny. Svenskeren and contracts are solid, although I think Bjergsen would be more likely to stay if Svenskeren stayed, which I don't think Evil Geniuses fans would like. Impact is still a top tier, top laner. I think Ignar is a top tier, support as well. But here's the problem with this team. Jungle, first off, they have no idea what they're going to do there. They also have Jojo Pion down in Academy. I think that he's kind of the guy that they want because they already got Danny, who's young too. Impact is about to be in his last probably ever split. I think he has to go do military service after this. So I don't know that Bjergsen would want a one-team wonder. I think he'd want a team that can give him a good 2 years, although he might just really want one more year of playing. I don't know. So impact, leaving would be big, and I just don't see that being the way that he'd want to go. That said, I think they would definitely give him the money. I think they'd definitely give him the percentage, and I think they would be a team that are close enough to being able to make Worlds that he would consider it. FlyQuest ain't going to happen. Golden Guardians, definitely not going to happen. Immortals, I just don't see it. I don't think Ray's Destiny, Xerxes, and Revenge are going to be enough for Bjergsen to want to sell out his shares of TSM. And then here's the most likely team. I will be honest with you. This is the team that, if it were to happen in the LCS, would be the one that I think would be the most likely. Team Liquid, which would freaking kill me. But, when you look at Alphari, I don't know if they'll keep Santorin, but whatever jungler that they decide. Tactical and Core JJ. While Jensen's good, it would be hilarious, by the way. That would be the only small redeeming factor of it, is that Jensen would get ousted by Bjergsen, which would confirm that he's better than him, even after taking a year off, which I'm sure Jensen would probably just hop straight on over to TSM to try to prove that wrong, by the way. So there'd be a lot of, revenge on the mind. But yeah, listen, Team Liquid I think would be willing to give some small percentages to Bjergsen to get him to come over. I think, I think Steve would love that narrative. I think this team with Bjergsen would be damn near unstoppable, to be honest with you. I don't think the rest of the LCS, whether it be Cloud9 or 100 Thieves, would have a chance. And it's not that Jensen's bad. I think he's been good, but I think that he is less impactful in big moments than Bjergsen is. There, I said it. What would be real spicy and what would make me literally want to cry is if, for some reason, Reggie allowed for Team Liquid to get Bjergsen and Spica. Imagine a team of Alphari, Spica, Bjergsen, Tactical, and Core JJ. That would be the God Squad. There would be, in my mind, no doubt that Team Liquid would be arguably the best LCS team that we had ever had. And it would not be very close. But then I come back to it, and I look at TSM, and I think this team makes the most sense. Now, I only have 5 minutes left before I have to hop off because I have a meeting. So I'm going to try to do this as quickly and rationally as I can. I think that Bjergsen is signed the thing to be the TSM guy for life. He understood what he was doing when he wanted the percentages, guys. He knew that this meant that if he ever came back to play, that if he ever wanted to, do anything within the LCS, that would have to be with TSM. TSM has been his home. He made that very clear. He's always wanted to stay. He had apparently been talking about being the coach of TSM before this, right? And yes, his contract is technically up. And yes, on the last episode, myself and Mallory made it very clear that there was almost no way that he was coming back. Clearly, we were wrong. At least he's considering it. I think he loves Spica. I think he understands his dedication. Spica said in his interview, hopefully I can, bring great players around me as well after winning this MVP. I think Bjergsen sees that. And I think that this team, if Bjergsen were to come back, which I love Power of Evil personally, I would be very sad to see him ousted like this, but I get it. But if it were to happen, this team would be literally one incredible AD carry away from winning. And there are going to be a lot of LPL and LCK bot laners, guys, that are going to be available. And with Bjergsen, that means that we'd have three NA players, technically, from Huni, Spica, and Bjergsen. Sword Art would stay. And guys, they could go out and use that FTX money to sign whoever they wanted in the bot lane. That's what Bjergsen sees. I'm telling you right now, that is what he sees. Because Sword Art knows Mandarin, knows Chinese. There are a lot of young LPL players that are going to be available. And Huni could, use Korean to help make the bot laner, whoever it would be, if it was from the LCK, want to stay too. I think Sword Art might know a little Korean. Guys, I'm telling you right now, if Bjergsen comes back, TSM, because Huni, literally, Alfari stated Huni is one of the best and hardest top laners to lane against. I think he meant it. Because clearly he's an MVP. He's one of the best junglers in the game. Sword Art looked much better by the end of the year. As much as I love Power View and Lost, and yes, I would love for them to stay with this team, but with Bjergsen as the coach. If you insert Bjergsen in there, you can get whoever you want at AD carry. You could even bring in Karzi. I think he would consider it if you show him the rest of this team. I'm just telling you right now, I think you could. Now, next week, we're going to go over teams a little bit more. But I'm telling you right now, TSM make the most sense. They were this close to Worlds. And a Huni Spica, Bjergsen, Sword Art, and whoever bot laner, with Curry at head coach, who knows how Bjergsen likes to coach, and will allow Bjergsen to do his thing and basically be another head coach with him, like a co-head coach. Guys, I could see it happening. I'm just telling you right now. That is the most likely scenario. And I don't care what any reporter or anybody else says. I'm just telling you right now. If Bjergsen comes back, TSM is still the most likely team. We heard the same stuff in 2019, guys. But yeah, that's the gist of it. What do you guys think? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Either in the TSM Discord. I would love for you guys to join the Talking TSM Discord, or on Twitter, in the comment sections, wherever. I want to know. I'm just excited for the opportunity for Bjergsen to potentially come back, guys. I think it could be very good for us. And I think it would help TSM in a big way. All right, if you like this show, please take a second to like, subscribe, and comment if you're watching on our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you don't miss another episode. Share this with your friends. You can hit me up on Twitter at TGH Robert Haynes, or the Gamehouse at TGH Esports. You can head to thegamehouse.com for a bunch of TSM content. I promise I will be better at making more. There will be some articles out, at least one, this week for the TSM. Very excited about that. And with that, thanks for tuning in. This show comes out every Monday in the off season, and is still exclusively for your TSM ear holes. I'm Robert Haynes, and this has been Talking TSM. I'll see you all next week.